In this heartwarming yet intense story, we follow Tiana, a 7-year-old girl living with her single mother, Ms. Jameson, who struggles to make ends meet. For years, Ms. Jameson has promised Tiana a bicycle, but financial hardships have prevented her from fulfilling that dream. One day, a kind-hearted police captain, Jenkins, surprises Tiana with a shiny new bike, bringing joy to their lives. However, their happiness is short-lived when Officer Harris, a prejudiced cop, forcefully yanks the bike from Tiana's hands, accusing them of theft. Will Officer Harris come to regret his actions upon realizing the truth behind the bike's gift? Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. 7-year-old Tiana lived in a modest apartment with her single mother, Ms. Jameson. The walls of their home were adorned with faded pictures of happier times, when Tiana's father was still around. Her mother worked tirelessly, juggling 2 jobs to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. Despite the financial strain, she had a warm smile that never wavered, a beacon of hope in their small world. Tiana's heart had yearned for a brand new bicycle for as long as she could remember. Every day, she watched enviously as the neighborhood kids zipped by on their gleaming rides, laughing and carefree. Her mother had promised her one for Christmas for years, but the day never came. Tiana understood her mother's struggle and held on to the hope that one day, she would finally get the bike she dreamed of. One chilly afternoon, Tiana stood by the playground, her breath visible in the crisp air as she watched the other children pedal away on their shiny bikes. The sound of their laughter echoed around her, but instead of joy, it felt like a heavy weight pressing down on her heart. "Please, can I have a turn?" she called out, her voice tinged with desperation. But the kids just giggled, their laughter ringing in her ears like a cruel melody. "Not now, Tiana. You don't have a bike," one of them shouted, pedaling faster. "Yeah, go play on the swings," another chimed in, and they all burst into laughter again, leaving her feeling even more alone. Tiana's eyes began to well up with tears, and she felt a lump in her throat. Just then, her mother, who had been watching from a distance, hurried over, concern etched on her face. "Don't cry, sweetheart," she said gently, kneeling beside Tiana and wiping away her tears with a soft handkerchief. "You'll get your own bike soon enough." "But Mama," Tiana sniffled, her voice shaky, "you tell me the same thing every time. When will it be soon enough?" Her mother sighed, pulling her into a comforting embrace. "I know it feels like forever, but I promise, we'll find the perfect bike for you. Just a little more patience, okay?" Tiana nodded, but the ache in her heart lingered. "I just want to ride with them," she whispered, glancing back at the kids who were still racing around, their joy a stark contrast to her own. It was then that Police Captain Jenkins spotted them from the corner of her eye. She had noticed Tiana's sadness before and felt a pang of empathy. She approached the duo, her stride firm and her eyes gentle. "Is everything okay here?" she asked. Tiana looked up, her eyes swollen with unshed tears, and shared her heart's deepest desire with the kind-faced woman. Captain Jenkins nodded, a spark of determination lighting up her eyes. She knew she had to do something to bring joy to this innocent child's life. Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. The next day, Captain Jenkins showed up with a shiny, new bicycle. The big bow on the handlebars danced in the breeze. Tiana couldn't believe her eyes as she glanced at her mom, who nodded and smiled, tears of joy streaming down her face. Tiana's heart raced with happiness as she wrapped her arms around Captain Jenkins. "Thank you so much, Captain. You made my dreams come true. This is my very first bike. I'm so happy," Tiana said excitedly. "This is a special gift just for you," Captain Jenkins replied with a warm smile. "And remember, if you ever need anything, just give me a call." She handed a card with her number to Ms. Jameson. "Merry Christmas," she added before driving off into the sunset, leaving a sense of hope behind. When Christmas morning arrived, Tiana could hardly contain her excitement. She rushed outside to show off her new bike to all her friends in the neighborhood. Her mom held her hand tightly as they watched Tiana ride away, and the joy on her daughter's face was more precious than anything else. The sound of the bike bell ringing filled the air as Tiana zipped around the block, laughter trailing behind her. "Mom, riding my own bike feels amazing. This is the best Christmas ever. I'm having so much fun," Tiana shouted joyfully. But their happiness didn't last long. Just a few minutes later, a white police car screeched to a stop in front of their house. Officer Harris, a cop known for his racist attitude, stepped out and looked at the new bike with suspicion. "Ma'am, where did you get that bike?" he demanded, his voice rough and unfriendly. "A police captain gave my daughter a Christmas gift," Ms. Jameson replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Officer Harris sneered, clearly not believing her. "You expect me to believe that some rich white cop just handed over a bike to a little thief like you," he spat. "I've seen you around here, always begging and causing trouble. You stole this from the wealthy folks down the street." He reached out to grab the bike, but Tiana held on tightly, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. "No. It's mine," Tiana yelled, panic rising in her voice. With a forceful tug, the officer yanked the bike from her grip and started to load it into the back of the police car. Ms. Jameson felt a wave of desperation wash over her. "Please, you don't understand. This is a gift. We didn't steal anything," she pleaded, but her words seemed to fall on deaf ears. Officer Harris was convinced that they were guilty of theft. "When I'm done with this bike, I'm coming back to take you both in," he said, his hand resting ominously on the gun holstered at his side. Tiana looked at her mother, her eyes filled with fear, silently begging for a way out of this nightmare. That's when Tiana remembered Captain Jenkins's number. "Mom, we have to call her," she said urgently. They sprinted back into the house, Tiana's legs shaking with fear, and she dialed the number with trembling hands. Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. "Police Captain Jenkins, please," she whispered into the receiver. "There's a police officer outside who took the bike you gifted my daughter and wants to arrest us." "Stay inside the house," Captain Jenkins instructed calmly. "I'll be there as soon as I can." As they waited for the captain to arrive, the tension grew thick. Officer Harris continued his tirade, his threats becoming more and more menacing. He slammed the bike into the back of his car and approached the door, pounding on it with his fist. "You better come out here and admit what you've done, or I'll make sure you regret it," he yelled. Inside, Ms. Jameson held her daughter close, her heart racing. But she knew they had done nothing wrong, and she would not let this hateful man ruin their Christmas. When Captain Jenkins's car pulled up, her face showed calm authority. "Officer Harris, what seems to be the problem?" she called out. Tiana kept her eyes locked on the man who had taken her bike, her heart pounding in her chest. "This bike," Harris stuttered, pointing to the one in his trunk. "It's stolen." "I know it is." "Is that so?" Captain Jenkins replied, her voice cool and steady. She walked over to the car and asked, "Do you have any evidence to support your claim?" Harris fumbled, realizing he had none. "It's just. I know these people," he mumbled, glancing nervously. "They couldn't possibly afford a bike like that." Captain Jenkins's gaze was sharp and unyielding. "Since when is being able to afford something a crime, Officer Harris?" she asked, her voice slicing through the tension. Harris flushed, his eyes darting around as he searched for a response. "It's just," he began, but Captain Jenkins cut him off, her hand resting firmly on her hip. "You've made a serious accusation without any basis. Do you have the evidence to back it up?" From the doorway, Ms. Jameson and Tiana watched, their eyes wide with hope. Tiana clutched her mother's hand tightly, her little heart racing. The captain's firm tone felt like a protective shield against the storm of accusations. I know it from experience," Harris stuttered, sweat forming on his forehead. "But I'll need to check with the neighbors." "No need," Captain Jenkins said firmly. "You've already caused enough distress here today. Now, remove the bike from your car and give it back to Tiana." Then, you can explain to me why you felt the need to harass an innocent family on Christmas. Harris's hand hovered over his gun as he stared down at the bike, his pride wounded. But the authority in Captain Jenkins's voice was clear, and with a huff, he complied. The bike's wheels spun freely as he pulled it out of the car, the shiny metal glinting in the fading light. He shoved it toward Tiana, who took it with trembling hands, her eyes never leaving the man who had tried to take it from her. Ms. Jameson stepped forward, her voice steady and grateful. Thank you, Captain. This means so much to us. Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. Captain Jenkins nodded, her eyes still fixed on Harris. You're welcome. Now, let's all enjoy the rest of our holiday. Officer Harris slammed the trunk shut, his face a mask of anger and defeat. As he drove away, the echo of his tires on the pavement was the only sound that filled the air. Tiana climbed onto her bike, her mother holding onto the back as they rode together, the wind in their hair and smiles on their faces. The day had been tainted by fear, but the warmth of their newfound friendship with Captain Jenkins had turned it into a memory they would cherish forever. The neighborhood kids who had once laughed at Tiana now watched in amazement as she pedaled past them, her mother jogging alongside. Some even waved, their faces a mix of surprise and admiration. Tiana felt like she was floating, her heart lighter than it had been in years. As they rounded the block, the streetlights flickering to life, Captain Jenkins's words remained etched in Ms. Jameson's mind. If you ever need anything, just call me. It was a promise she knew she could trust. And as they pulled up to their house, the Christmas lights twinkling in the windows, she whispered a silent prayer of gratitude for the guardian angel who had come to their rescue. The racist cop had taken away a moment of innocence, but he had also given them a gift, the knowledge that there were good people in the world, people like Captain Jenkins, who would fight for them no matter what. And with each turn of her pedals, Tiana felt the wind of change whispering in her ears, a promise of a brighter future. Officer Harris was suspended and eventually transferred to another precinct. But his legacy lived on in the hearts of those he had wronged, serving as a painful reminder of the work still left to be done. Yet, amidst the turmoil, Tiana and her mother had found an unexpected ally in Captain Jenkins. Her kindness had not only restored Tiana's faith in the goodness of people but had also started a ripple effect that touched the lives of everyone in their community. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to help our channel grow. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to help our channel grow.